بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Today we have a very special guest live from Pakistan. Many of you know him, Brother Imran Yousafzai. Anyone that's looking at Pakistan and trying to understand the political situation in Pakistan, either political, economic, in general, the situation on the ground in Pakistan as far as change is concerned, and what is needed to be done in Pakistan. You will always hear Brother Imran's voice, sometimes even creating a narrative that the Muslims need to understand something that is missing within the discussion that's taking place within the political culture or the political landscape in Pakistan. And of course, we named this podcast to Rafah, to Palestine, to Pakistan. Pakistan being one of the major countries that should be playing a very major role in what is taking place in Gaza in general, Palestine in general, and Gaza particular, and now Rafah. So to discuss this issue, what should be the role of Pakistan, specifically the role of the army of Pakistan, the role as a Muslim country that is looked up to in many ways, a nuclear power, and with a very efficient army that so far, until now, has been utilized majority of the time for colonial purposes. So to discuss this, we have Brother Imran Yousafzai, who's also a teacher, a professional accountant, and a social media activist. So inshallah, welcome to Islamic Oasis Live, Brother Imran.
Thank you, Brother Shirazi Saab, and Jazakallah khair for having me on this program.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Imran, a question. Let's start. There is a lot of discussion to what should be the role of Muslims, number one, and the Muslim countries that are surrounding Palestine, surrounding Rafah, surrounding Gaza, and specifically the role of some major countries like Pakistan, like Egypt, like Turkey. So what is going on, Sheikh? Where you are sitting in Pakistan, you are in Peshawar. What's the reality on the ground in Pakistan when they think of, or when they're looking at the situation of Palestine?
Jazakallah khair. We Ummah as a whole, except for a few people who have been very actively working to turn the situation into the favor of Islam and Muslim and Ummah and the people of Palestine and Aqsa, the rest of the Muslim collectively has failed. Not because they don't have the emotion, they don't have the feel, they don't want to, but because of the lack of clear path, there has been a collective failure of the Ummah. And Pakistani people, Pakistani Muslims are no different from the rest of the Muslim Ummah who feel the pain. Most of the Muslim even cannot watch what's happening. They just scroll the videos They are weeping, they are crying. Sometimes they discuss, sometimes they don't. In Pakistan, just for some time, I have been discussing this issue with the people for the last 7 months, and there is a complaint. Why the people of Pakistan are not rising up the way people rise up in the Europe, in the universities, for example, the current saga.
Mm.
And when I analyze the situation, I feel that our people, there are although multiple reasons, and we will go on discussing this topic in upcoming questions and upcoming discussion. But people want something more practical than even going out on the street and just doing protest.
Mm.
They believe this is no more enough. They have they demand much higher than this, to say Murdabad of Israel, and we are against America, and we are against these current ruler. There is a feeling of frustration, there is a feeling of helplessness, and they believe that nothing short of armies, jihad, mujahid, and even what they call suicide bombing, fidai bombing, nothing short of this is enough. Even they believe these protests are no more enough. They have seen these boycotts and they believe nothing is working. So there is a collective feeling of helplessness, or the feeling of what to be, lack of clarity, and almost they are there's a emotional time bomb that has built. So seriously, the ummah in Pakistan is no different from the ummah anywhere in the Muslim world or outside the Muslim world. So the feeling is mutual.
But
So
Sheikh,
that's the
Pakistan,
situation everywhere.
do you feel though that Pakistan plays a more unique role than any other part of the Muslim world? And then the reason I'm asking is that, when you speak to the people in Jordan, for instance, uh, sure, there may be frustrations, but uh, it's almost, you might feel that there is nothing happening. And Jordan is next door to Palestine. And you look at Egypt, people are just still worried about their jobs and they're going on with their business and their lives. Is it because what is the problem, Sheikh? The problem is there seems to be almost a deafening silence from the Muslim lands. I mean, literally, as if, yes, there is that frustration. So I guess they're getting their frustration out from, these scrolling down videos on and crying a little bit, and there's some tears come out, and then that's it. There is nothing else happens.
Okay. I think this is wrong to assess people on this basis, because they are the business of daily life is going on. So I was sitting yesterday at one of the place, and we were discussing, and someone asked me exactly the same question. In fact, he said, "What's going on? Look at them; they are having their tea. Look, they are having chit chat. So where do you see the field?" And I see this is wrong to assess the people at the surface, because people will continue to do their job. They cannot just weep in the corner and just stop the business. That does not show that they are not feeling, they don't want to do something. Because the business as usual will continue unless there's a change. You can see, if after the change and there is a collective work going on, and they are not contributing to that, and they're sidelining that work, and then you can say they are not affected. But probably because most of the people feel what we are calling for, what we are doing, this is simply not the solution, and they
Meaning
don't find
protesting.
any solution. Protesting, maybe they don't find protest is enough a solution, or they don't have the hope. For example, the people in the US or the universities or in the Europeans, they more believe that they are the one who dictate the decision making of the ruler, although it is somewhat affected, but they believe they are powerful. They have a right to say something, and they can force the government on something. They do believe in that. Because of the freedom of speech, or we are the people who rule, we are the people who are the actual, who should command who should command the ruling policies of the state. But in Muslim countries, for example, Jordan or in Saudi Arabia, no one believes that anything we do can affect the state policies. So if they are not doing something, there is a deep sense of we can't do anything. Even if we try, this won't result into anything. It does not mean they they are in any way less emotional, or they want to do less than what the other people are doing, because sometimes we self pity ourselves and we believe we are not doing. Look at the Europeans, they are better than us, at least they are on the street. So there are multiple reasons. So one reason is the helplessness, one reason is how can we do, one reason is there is no way to reach there, one reason is these regimes are too powerful, and this and this and this. So multiple reasons combined, and people are not moving the way they want to. And in terms of Pakistan or Jordan, yes, the Pakistani people, there is one argument back of their mind that how can we reach there? The primary role should be of the Arab regimes because they are close. They should take the lead. And yes, Pakistan is in their belief, in their concept, Pakistan is the leader of the Ummah, because in every nation there are certain concepts are given. In Pakistan, they do believe because of the nuclear power, Pakistan is a very superior nation and Pakistan should be doing this job. Yes, in this sense, agree, but we are far away. How can we? So they give some of the excuse to the ruler in their mind, and the military rulers, they have spread this argument through their social media channel, formal and informal, their whole networking, which they call the fifth generation fight. They have thousands of workers who are working for them, some paid, some unpaid, and believe that they are the savior of the Ummah. And they have spread this argument that Pakistan can do, but what can Pakistan do? Pakistan is too far away. So they do believe that let the Arab take lead. If we want to do, we will not get even the military bases. How can we do? Although the people are not buying this argument as such, but some of them do have this thinking in their mind that what Pakistan can do, but Pakistan should do. But when the persecution increase, they then start thinking, no, we have to do. But
Sheikh, I mean,
these mix of the thoughts are tools.
When they look at what happened with Iran, I mean, when Iran wanted to act, it sent missiles, it sent these drones, whatever drones they were. I mean, Urdu mein patakhe jo bolte hain, yani, whatever it is, but the idea that Pakistan is too far and cannot do anything, did that, at least what happened with Iran and that the response of Iran that no, you can if you actually wanted to, at least was that broken, that no, we're not, it's not, the excuse is not about too far or too close?
Okay, actually, again, I will answer this point in that most of the
Even
people
though I
don't
do
buy
understand
this
that Iran, it's a game, and I do understand that Iran had to somehow respond just because it was attacked in Damascus. It was a direct attack on Iran, and so it was a very nationalistic Iran, for the interest of Iran. We understand that, but the idea that we cannot reach Israel and we have to just sit there and watch, at least that was that concept at least hit.
Okay, Sheikh, actually, let me tell you that overall, this opinion is not bought in Pakistan because of the level of persecution that the people of Gaza are facing, the people of Rafah are facing. This argument is not accepted in Pakistan, and this is not one of the main arguments. I was just telling you there are multiple arguments going on in the back of the mind of the people, which does affect their activism to some extent, and some of the rulers' tricks work, some of the ruler tricks do not work, some of the ruler tricks work partially, some of the ruler tricks work in a good manner. So these are some of the tricks regarding Iranian attack. Because of an overwhelming emotion and multiple evidences that came out that it was to some extent agreed with the US, it was a comic show rather than a real show. This does not broken this argument primarily. This has not broken actually. And number two, people are not clear about the geography. They exactly don't know where the Jordan is placed, where the Egypt is placed, where Iran is there. They believe Iran is probably close. So Iran is just around Israel because they are every second day they do issue statement against each other. They must be just on the border of each other. So they do think they don't have a clear idea. So common masses do not have idea. Even well aware people don't have a precise idea how far Iran is. So this has not broken because they think it is the Arabs and just the Iranian and they're close to. the Israel. They don't know where UAE is placed. They don't know where Saudi Arabia is placed. They don't know where the Jordan is. They just heard recently in days Jordan, Egypt. Jordan, Egypt is repeatedly most that it is close to. Some of the people were recently, just last week, were telling me, Egypt is on the border of this, and Egypt is not doing something. So there are many people who have no clear idea of the geography. So this has not broken that argument, although the argument was not taken by the people already in an exact manner, in a comprehensive manner. People are not buying this argument because of the level of persecution that currently exists.
Sheikh, the issue of the army, I mean, what are the feelings within the army? If I don't know if conversations, anything like this, that they are Muslims, and they are when you look at some of the things that the Egyptian army is doing, I'm sure you saw the clip where one young man, he was able to jump over the wall and come, and then the way they beat him and things like that. Is that so? When you see that, you say, well, this is the Egyptian army? And if they wish, they could have looked the other way and just said, okay, man, just leave, go. But they made sure to arrest him. They made sure to beat him. Now, how are the Muslims are supposed to look at these armies and say, how is this possible that people with such hearts, and sometimes you might even feel that they have no Islamic emotions, period?
Okay. In fact, regarding the feeling, I have seen much charged feeling among the army men in comparison to the people, to be very honest, because I'm personally from a military family. My 4 brothers are military officers. My other family members are officers. So that's why there has been close interaction with these people, sometime in sitting in army mess, sometimes sitting in camps. I have been a teacher since last over 2 decades. So many of my students are army officers. They are closely linked to that. In my classes, there are students whose family members are army officers. I don't see any difference in emotion. Yes, I understand actually when people see them killing their own Muslim brothers and they don't buy my argument. I do understand them, because what people see is the practical action which they saw on the video when the Egyptian army officer and soldiers are beating a Palestinian. This is what I see. And that's why when they are sitting with me in a frank environment, having tea and discussing, and in the same way crying, what can we do? We can't control the whole policies. We are waiting for the order, but we are too far away. That the arguments given to them by their command that we do want, but we are far away, and no, we have other compulsion. We have our own sets of problem. Say in Balochistan and in Fatah, there are terrorism going on. We are surrounded by their argument, enemies surrounded from all sides. So we can't afford to do that. So these are the arguments given to them. And the most important argument is, what can I do? Each of them separately is asking this question, what can I do? They are telling us that my wife is cursing me and say, what are you doing? So they are living in the same atmosphere. Pakistan army is not the type of army that Egypt is building or some other country, which are too separate from the people. They are too middle class people. They are too from the common population, and their whole family, they are connected with the family. They are not living in the same manner, disconnected in the way probably Egypt is building a new city so that it can disconnect totally its army from its masses. So the feeling is much more powerful. And the feeling, why this is the case, why? Because sometimes I may feel that I want to do something, but I'm not a trend man. I don't have the army, I don't have the guns, I don't have the air defense. What can I do? But imagine about an army major or colonel who do think that he can manage at least certain area and he can fight the Jews. So he feel a very big sense of responsibility. But how they're controlled? Because of their army discipline. They have been convinced that if you broke this discipline, then this will destroy the most important army of the world. and we ask them, okay, what's the use of that army? If you are not doing something now, what's the point of this army? If the Muslims are dissipated everywhere in front of you and you are watching it live, what's your job? What you are supposed to be doing? Or what day we have prepared you? Everyone is asking them. They are now even not wearing their uniform in the public because the people are cursing them and they feel the pinch. On this Eid, one of my friend told me that a colonel friend of him they were all gathered because of the old class fellows were having a gathering. So the guy soon left in a short time because everyone was asking him, what are you doing? What are you doing? You are a colonel. And he was telling me, what can I do? I'm not the army chief. I cannot control the policies. But all his class fellows were pinching him and saying, what are you doing? What's the point of your uniform and your training? So they are feeling so much pressure because they cannot face anyone at the moment. So the Muslim of Pakistan, the army, there is a very charged emotion. But as long as there's a change, as long as there's a viable plan to bring change, things will go on as they are.
But so,
And we will say, okay, what we are doing?
so when you say viable plan for change, what does army look for? What is the viable plan? Or are they not seeing a viable plan? Are they not convinced with the plans being presented? I'm sure there are movements across Pakistan who are presenting. Look, I do understand that in general, even Islamic movements or movements in general have failed in many ways. In the past. So I understand that the leadership may be looking at this thing and saying, look, we're not going to just create chaos. So, but are there people there talking about a viable plan?
Okay, look, the viable plan is you have a task in front of you. Muslims are being killed and you have to rescue them. The question is, what stop you? What stop you? Okay, you want to fight. Okay, this guy want to fight. This unit want to fight. This soldier want to fight. This SSG, our elite commandos, they want to fight. Okay, so who stop you? Our economy is weak. Okay, don't tell me these arguments. The whole Pakistan will pour all their hearts and their property and everything to you, and the whole ummah is with you. Don't give me these arguments. What stop you? Okay, there is a bunch of people controlling Pakistan army, Egyptian army, Turkish army, Syrian army, or Jordanian army. There are a bunch of people, and you know them well. In Pakistan, already they lost their legitimacy. There is an anger against them, not just because of the Palestine, but also because they believe that this army is controlling, is supporting the crooked and the corrupt people in Pakistan, and they have made them ruler, and they are manipulating everything, even in broad daylight. It's very clear to everyone now. Until 2018, 2020, there was some cover that they are supporting the good people, the Imran Khan people. But now there are people already against the regime, that they are supporter of the crooked people, they are supported by Americans, and they are all crooked. So already the emotion is high. So what stop you? And you should remove those who stop you. If it is the concept of border stop you, then you should eradicate this concept. And if there are some bunch of people who are with Americans and they are stopping you, then you should remove them. The viable plan is to remove them in a comprehensive manner. It should not be emotional reaction. It should not be a knee-jerk reaction, which will not result into comprehensive change. That's the point. That's the viable plan. So if any movement has such a plan, you should contact them. If you believe in the sincerity and the working, because an army soldier, it will be difficult for him to have a complete viable plan. It will be difficult. They are being checked. They are being closely monitored. And the Americans know this, that the Muslim armies are in turmoil. There are a strong emotion within the masses and within the armies in Egypt, in Jordan, everywhere. So there is a strong check on them. So there is a need for a very careful, delicate, and very exhaustive plan made to bring a comprehensive change, because these are a few people who are actually Iron Dome, who are the actual IDF, who are the actual Israeli Defense Force of the Israel. So you need to first remove them. Otherwise, how can we fight? The Salahuddin Ayyubi first unified the Muslim ranks, and then he liberated the Palestine. If you don't do this, how will you? That's why the viable plan is first bring change in the Muslim capitals, at least in one strong capital, so that we can then move on and we can create the domino effect and we can unify the ranks of the Muslims and we can ask everyone that join us. If you are waiting for for someone to lead, we are here to lead. Pakistan is ready to lead. That's why the people of Pakistan, they should be pushing continuously. Alhamdulillah, Sheikh Saab, I will refer you to our recent some protests that's happening across Pakistan. Although they are in the beginning, but I would want you to project these as well. If you have got the videos, the people in Karachi, the universities, they called for clearly armies to Aqsa. The army to Aqsa
Yes,
hashtag is getting
that was
popular.
very interesting. I mean, Sheikh, that was I saw the protest. Mostly students in Karachi universities, it seems. I don't know if that was they were inspired by the encampments here in the universities from here. I don't know if that was one of the motivations, or at least to see that students are doing something there, then they have to do something. And it was very clear message also. It wasn't that just go out for some slogan, say Murdabad, this and that. Rather, actually say that the armies must move, and so the very clear objectives. But Sheikh, so is this, when we look at the universities in the Muslim land, especially let's say Pakistan, is this idea that Pakistan, here I'm talking about Pakistan, I mean, so that's why I'm focusing on Pakistan, that Pakistan has the wherewithal, it has what it takes to lead. It has the Islamic emotions. It has the means as far as a military as it has the means as far being a power in the region. The average student, what's going on in their mind? For instance, the reason I'm asking you is the ones who are doing the protest in this country. Many of them are Ivy League school. These are top universities in the United States, right? You're talking about Columbia, MIT, Yale's, and Oxford. I mean, all of these, all over, whether it's UK or US, Arizona. I mean, these are not small schools. Boston, University of Chicago, Northwestern University. Many of those youth, their parents even may be politicians. And so obviously the level of crackdown has to be also monitored. But now, is that the same level when we talk about Pakistan and Pakistan universities where these protests are taking place? And how far can they go before they are completely destroyed?
Okay, Sheikh, I was in contact with these activists who have initiated this campaign. Let's start protest in Pakistan in universities, and the situation is that actually in Pakistan there are invisible lines. Apparently, it's a free society. It's not like Arabs, and you can do protests and activities, and there is open permission to do that. But there are lines drawn, and these lines are invisible, and but many people exactly feel this, from this point, if we cross this line, there will be repercussions. So apparently you can, but people can clearly feel this is the line. So for example, when this Karachi, the student in Karachi, they protested. I'm not talking about the Karachi university's gathering. There was another gathering in which many people gathered outside mosque, and they had their flashlight on, and they were making slogans very powerfully.
Yes.
So some of the activists shared these video with the University of FAST, very top class IT university in Pakistan, in Islamabad. They shared with the FAST university students, and they say, yes, it's wonderful, we want to do that, and let's do that. And they decided a tree inside the campus. And within a short time, they cannot do that. They will not be permitted. They might be removed, and they kicked out and removed from the university. So they shifted it just on the gate of the FAST university, so that they are not doing inside, because they know that's the line. And they did outside the gates and university. And from these videos, they call to the people of Lums University, the Pakistan top business school, and say, where are you? And the people of students of NUST, where are you? We are standing, where are you? They called the other university students, and then the Nustian also participated, and then the Namal University, another university which is famous for foreign languages, their universities, they started a gathering, and they asked for, we need this slogan. The organizer contacted the people of the students of FAST and say, we like this slogan, these banners, and we need these banner actually. We have been protesting earlier as well in August, September, in October, November, December, but we now need these slogans. So they do like and understand that this is the solution because of the lack of efficacy of the rest of solutions. So Ummah is learning, but of course in a very bad way, after facing much trials, that this is the path forward. In fact, the ulama had a big gathering in November in the Islamabad Convention Center in Pakistan. They don't allow even the word jihad in Pakistan post the war on terror. But there was so much pressure that the establishment minister, the minister of religious affairs, he also participated in that convention, where open calls for jihad was given, although not precisely giving a fatwa to the army, but open call for jihad was given, endorsed by the Sheikh al-Islam, Sheikh Taqi Usmani Sahab. He say this jihad is the only way forward, and that should be done by the government. And so that is the level of pressure that the regime that do not want to even listen to the word jihad, they held a conference in the convention center, which is the biggest conference area in the country, in the main capital, called All the Ulama, organized by the ulama, and open call for jihad and slogans of jihad were given in that convention, which were telecasted on private channels. So it becomes so famous because of the pressure that is there in the masses. So, but after that, they just stopped this whole saga. Why? Because they say this will release the pressure. Primarily, Sheikh Saab, the Arab regimes and the Pakistani regime, they are all on board, and it is now very well known fact for most of the aware people that they want the Hamas to be defeated and replaced by the Palestinian Authority, and then the two-state solution deal is done. They needed time for the Israelis to crush the resistance. So they are trying to buy time by one way or the other way, sometimes sending the charitable donation by the states, and sometimes allowing some people to do protest, but within a limits. Sometimes they allow the raising the call for jihad, but within a limits. They do allow this so that they buy some time and show that they are on the Palestinian side. But this time they are badly exposed, by the way. And serious people are clearly looking for some clear solution, because they have seen the ruler and they're now not buying the argument. These tricks that we were starting with the program with, that some people think in this way and some people think in that way, and they give excuses, they are no more effective. They are affecting very small number of people. Broader population think they are agent, they are part of the Israeli Defense Force, they are part of they are part of the Yahud, they are part of the Zionist, and we are alone, and whatever we have to do ourselves, because the states are with them actually. So there is a lot of clarity among the masses. That is why even when we say armies to Aqsa, most of the people criticize and say, is this army will go? Who are murdering Muslims? So the biggest discussion that come up whenever you say armies, and then you say, okay, then who will do? And they're silent, and they say, yes, I agree. One discussion and they agree it has to be done by the army. Second discussion and they agree, yes, the most of the armies is not like them. But then they say the leadership is corrupt. And there we agree. So it is just literally a 2-minute or 3-minute discussion in Pakistan with anyone. And they're convinced. They say yes. First reaction,
Sheikh, I mean,
how can these armies?
When we talk about moving the armies, there is that discussion that, look, the Arabs moved the armies in 1948, 67, 72, or 73, whatever. I mean, and so in whatever capacity, at least we understand the game. But there is that discussion that if the armies move under the regimes that exist today, moving the armies, it could also be a political maneuver by these regimes just to buy time, and or even to show that, oh look, we are trying but we can't win. Although I think what's happening with 7-8 months of war, and Israel is barely achieving anything, and it needs United States support, needs UK support, needs Jordan, needs Egypt, it needs all these countries to support it to just defeat a bunch of a ragtag movement that, and as a we can see the weakness of Israel. But the question is that, do we want armies to move under such regimes? That could be a planned disaster in many ways.
Okay, we have to first convince the people that the armies need to move. Most of the people simply don't believe that these army will ever move, actually.
So the first thing you're saying, at least understand that they need to move.
They need to move. Actually, if the discussion come up, okay, they need to move, then this is a second discussion, that should they move under these secular regimes? Because at the end of the day, they will use it only for some political maneuvering, and it will be useless in the long run. By the way, this argument that these Muslim regimes have failed to crush Israel, this argument might be bought somewhere in the Arab world, and it might no more be acceptable to people because it is exposed now, where people knew it, but most of the Arab countries, this argument might have been acceptable, but in people of Pakistan are even not aware of what was 6-day war and what was 73 war and what happened at that time, and the Muslim armies were defeated and Israel is too powerful. These arguments do not exist anywhere in Pakistan, by the way. They do believe Pakistan army is very strong and it can destroy Israel within minutes. There is one statement by the Chairman Joint Chief of Staff Committee, General Zubair Mahmood Hayat, in 2018, who say we can destroy Israel in 12 minutes. And these arguments are bought in Pakistan in general, that we can do. So they don't buy this argument that, and if you tell them that Arabs armies were beaten and they were crushed and they lost the war, they say, okay, so they might be coward. Pakistan army is not like that. So this argument as such does not exist in Pakistan, that if even we move, we might lose because Israel is powerful. This argument does not exist. The argument is only that argument exists is, how can they move? These army will never move. This is one of the argument that is presented. We then tell people that, look, we have to change the leadership, because if the leadership is not bought on the real idea of jihad, if we force them to move, this will not result into a real change, because they are not actually bought on the idea of jihad and supremacy of Islam and fighting for Masjid Aqsa. So you might have the emotion, but your leadership is only a secular leadership, and it will not result into any real tangible change. So we need much broader change for that. And this discussion generally happens with very serious people who really want to move the army. Then they understand, and they are generally senior people, they understand that without changing this regime, this won't result. But for the broader people of Pakistan, this argument alone is enough that army should move. And there is a little bit hate now for the army because of the interfering in the politics and supporting, in their view, the crooked politician, that because of the anger as well, they want the armies to go. In fact, many of the Islamists have a hate now, build a hate for the army. And because of the hate, they say, let them fight. Why should I? We build them for fight. So let them go. So this argument has increased in Pakistan since 2019, when the Modi took over Kashmir. And there was a unanimous opinion that army should go, we should not. They didn't say it. Earlier, the argument was, we should fight. And the army will be sitting and it just support us. But now the argument is gone. And the argument is, they should fight. And it's not because they believe, because of the pure concept of the armies are effective and they should mobilize, because of the hate, that why they are not fighting and we should fight. It's their job. We train them, we pay them, they eat our resources, and still they don't fight. So these multiple arguments are now mixed up. So that's why the people want army to go, and people don't buy this that if under current regime they move, it will not be effective. They even have not reached to this discussion. They simply want the army to go. We will see what will happen later. That will be a later discussion. We first want the army to go. Sorry, but your argument actually is very precise and very accurate. I do not disagree with your argument. If under current regimes the army will move, yes. If your leadership is not sincere, if your leadership move because of certain American objective, if the leadership move because American want to pressurize Netanyahu, the Bibi as well, because they want to force the Bibi to do a two-state solution. So even if there are some move by, say, Egyptian or say Pakistan, or one statement by Iranian or something else, it will also be for the American objective, just to pressurize them for a two-state solution, for a deal which the Arabs can sell to their masses as well. It will not be effective. So this argument is actually rightly put, precise, and the people need to understand this. But my discussion was that the people have not reached to that discussion at the moment.
Sheikh, you are close to, I mean, where Afghanistan is. Peshawar is literally the border of Afghanistan. There was a lot of hope for Afghanistan, and I think a lot of people, when Rafah situation started using some videos that came out of Rafah or Gaza, in that area, that asking the Muslims of Afghanistan to do something, the Taliban to do something, and Taliban came to surprise, I think, almost the whole Muslim Ummah in its response of such a. It's almost that could unbelievable response, especially from what they were expecting. A movement that comes into power in 20 years, fighting the Americans, and before that fighting the Soviets, and now here's a regime that doesn't even blink to what's taking place in Gaza.
Okay, this is true, and many of my students are Afghans. Actually, I teach in Peshawar, so most of the Afghan students, for higher education, they come to Peshawar actually to have their finance degrees. So most of my students have been many of my students have been Afghans. I did visited Afghanistan twice as well, and we are very connected because we are just on the border, and there are people on our side which do not need even visa. The Shinwaris, they are on the both sides, so they are very connected with us. Basically, Taliban, Americans demanded 3 concessions from them for withdrawal. When American concluded that they cannot replicate the Iraq model, where they were able to win the Sunni tribal heads, and the Iranian convinced Al-Tashai groups not to fight against the Americans, so they were easily able to create a so-called representative government, their own armies on the backside, controlling the whole Iraq from the world largest embassy ever, which can be seen from the moon. So it was a successful model for Americans to control the whole Iraq with a very small amount of army, without strategic focus, without taking the most of the time of the American establishment, and easily controlling a whole nation. They tried to replicate this, but the people of Afghanistan, I just don't want to say the word Taliban, because it was a broader movement of the people of Afghanistan. Yes, they were gathered under the umbrella of Taliban because they were the previous regime, but actually it was there were hundreds of small groups everywhere who were coordinated through Taliban, who were fighting the Americans. It was a common national resistance against the American, and American were not able to subdue this. They were not able to win most of these movements, the smaller movements. So that's why they failed. And by 2010, the last Obama surge strategy, where Obama said, okay, I am allowing you 150,000 increase in the soldier, but you have to give you have to achieve the victory. Otherwise, I will be then doing a deal. American wanted 3 concessions from the Taliban, from the resistance. Mullah Omar was not even ready to listen and not ready to negotiate unless you withdraw. Then Akhtar Mansour, he became the head of the Taliban. He did not started negotiation. He cheated them on different negotiation, and he did not start it. And then they killed Akhtar Mansour. Then Pakistan entered, and Pakistan added the number 2 of the Taliban from their own prison. They released him, the guy from the prison, and made the number 2, and he agreed and become the Doha negotiation team head. So it was Pakistan arm twisting the Taliban, which forced them to start negotiation. But American wanted 3 things, and they were only able to achieve the last one. The 3 was allowing soldiers and bases in Afghanistan, which Taliban did not concede it. In a long negotiation, they asked for some advisor, some consultant, but the Taliban only agreed to embassy. You can have some staff, which might be military in nature within the embassy, but you cannot have bases. So you will have to evacuate Bagram base, this base, that base, and you will have to go. So this Taliban did not concede it. Second, American demand was having a unity government. Unity government means that there will be some secular Shah, there will be Abdullah, Hamid Karzai, Ashraf Ghani, and Ismail Khan, and your people as well, some 50-50 split, 30-70 split, 40-60 split, so that the Taliban are not able to impose their whole agenda because of the other partners in the government. It actually failed just because of in their view, the cowardice of Ashraf Ghani, who ran away during the lunch, sat in the helicopter and and ran. Otherwise, the Taliban were waiting outside the Kabul because they agreed that there will be a finalization of the deal will happen in Kabul, and they will not enter Kabul. But when the Ashraf Ghani ran away, their whole security structure and infrastructure crumbled, and Taliban suddenly entered, and the deal about any negotiation on the unity government was failed. But Taliban conceded this, and it was something they conceded from the very beginning, even before starting jihad. They did concede it theoretically that there will be no pan-Islamism. There will be no export of jihad. There will be no export of Islam outside the borders. And they agreed they will be nationalistic in nature. Even those movements which collaborated with them, they tried to keep some distance from them and not merging. They were not taking bay'ah even in 1996 from Chechens, when even there was no demand from Americans. They were not willing. So they ideologically wanted to help everyone, but they were clear in their thinking that we will not go beyond border. We will see that later. Let's say after 2, 3, 4 decades, if we are powerful, we will see that at that time. But they were clear, we will not export jihad, we will not support anything outside Afghanistan. So yes, they did support it, Al-Qaeda, and give them bases, and that became a problem for them, and they decided that we will agree to this American demand that we cut relation with the Al-Qaeda. We do not allow any Daesh, any pan-Islamist. So even currently, there is one movement, Hizb ut-Tahrir, many of their members are arrested now. Although they are political, they are just calling for Khilafah, and they are arresting them. And their Molvi Abdul Wasik, the intelligence chief, is sitting in Doha just 2 weeks ago with CIA director and cooperating on counterterrorism and intelligence sharing. That show that they agreed to this stopping the pan-Islamist behavior and living within the border. So they, for example, Taliban advised Pakistan regime to hold talks with India on Kashmir. Okay, no talk of jihad. Okay, just like outside the border, there is no Islam, there is no Islam in foreign policy. In those affairs, we will be discussing everything like a secular state, look at their national interest. So even on a lighter note, I was just yesterday telling some people that might be General Sisi and Shehbaz Sharif done more condemnation of the Israelis than what Mullah Haibatullah did.
Which is very, very surprising, Sheikh.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a clarity in Taliban, which is a treachery actually. But they are clear that we will win the civilized nation tag from the Americans. That look, they passed the test of time. They need to be given UN membership. They need to be recognized by Chinese, Russian, Pakistan, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Look, if in this crisis we control our people, we did anything that was Islamist in global affair. So what else you want? Accept us. So they intentionally are doing this. The entourage, the Sheikh Hebatullah, the current Maulvi Hassan, and the entourage, the 5 guys who are actually the controlling Afghanistan, they might have a lot of Islamic emotion, but what should I do of that emotion? We in Urdu we say हम उसका अचार नहीं बना सकते. We can't make pickle out of your emotions. If you are genuinely very mujahid, then what should I do of that jihad if the Muslims are killed and you are not even raising, just saying even this, that look, this Badri battalion is ready to wage jihad against Israel. Look, we have 1,000 suicide bomber against the tanks of Israel. Look, we need a way. Give us a path. We are going. You don't go. We will fight. Our whole nation of the 4 crore are mujahid. We are ready to go. Just give us. Just say this from. Just say this. They are not even saying this because they want to show the world that we are civilized. So in the global affair, the Doha deal is actually surrender. Inside, they are trying to please America. Sometime they come under pressure of their local ulama and they say we will implement hudud, and then they backtrack, and then they say we will, then they backtrack. This goes on. But in international affair, it is a clear decision by the Taliban regime that we will not go anywhere. We will not raise any Islamic proper Islamic foreign policy will not be implemented, and we will see that after 3, 4, 5 decades, because our people are have been through much pain in the last 4 decades. It's time for development. So this is actually a decision that they have taken clearly.
So does that mean that even Islam will not be implemented as a whole?
It is not implemented. It is the case that they are not implementing Islam because of the so-called global pressure. So, for example, but there is a competing pressure. One is international pressure, and the people who are supporting the international, who want to win international legitimacy, and there is a strong pressure from the masses and from the Islamic movement and from their commanders and from their ulama who want Islam to be implemented. So, for example, the head of their Amr bil Maruf and in Mulkar department, he said in an interview that we are not implementing hudud because then the world will be against us. So they did not implement hudud for 2 years. And when the pressure was increased, the Sheikh, their Sheikh Hebatullah, he allowed certain hudud to be implemented in far-flung districts which are rarely media reported. So, but Kabul, we will not be doing that because it is in the media limelight. It is much reported. So they have not implemented hudud as such, but they do broadcast one-off event in the Islamist circle so that they can show that, look, they are implementing hudud. But they're not implementing hudud. And their banks are still based on the old policy. There is still $40 to $80 million a parallel economy going through the UN infrastructure, which is basically supporting people. So their banks, they are still run on interest, although most of the people, like in many Islamic society, do not take loan. Most of the business do not take loan. So people don't feel the effect of that interest, but the system is there. They are imposing taxes. And the taxes were so much actually in the recent era that people were very, very against. And just on this Eid, the Mullah Hebatullah withdraw one of the tax which they imposed on the marketing and advertising billboards, which they imposed. There, one of the senior scholars, Sheikh Hamasi, he did a speech against these taxes that are implemented and asking, what is the evidence for that? Why don't you implement zakat and jizya and the kharaj and ushar, and why you are imposing these taxes which has no basis in Islam? So then one of the taxes withdrawn just on this Eid, but there was a lot of pressure on the people. Most of the people are happy with the peace that exists, security that exists. They're happy with this, but they are very angry, most of the businessmen, over the taxes because there is no corruption, quotes unquote, bribery is not there, so everyone has to pay taxes. In the previous regime, they would pay a little bit to the regime and they will avoid taxes. But now everyone is paying taxes, 20,000 Afghanis and 40,000 Afghani per year for each shop, for each even cart. They registered all the carts and imposed 5,000 Afghani and 10,000 Afghani per year. Taxes on the cart is there. So even if I am just meeting my both with a lot of difficulty, I'm meeting my both end meet, even then I have to pay taxes.
Sheikh, because of the time, this is amazing. Because Maghrib is in for us. But I just want to ask, subhanAllah, what, when it comes to whenever there are surveys done, about, do you want Islam? Pakistan always comes number one. 90%, I think 95%, 98%, something like this. These are real polls that are done, and then every single time, Pakistan almost comes as number one that wants Islam. Sheikh, so what do the Muslims of Pakistan, what do they mean when they say they want Islam? Do they understand the concept of, let's say, Khilafah? Do they understand the concept of, or do they mean, okay, when we say Islam, the Sharia will be implemented? Or is it just that they love Islam and they said, okay, Islam in general, people should be, prayers, zakat. Are we talking Islam as a system, or they just saying that, look, we don't oppose Islamic values, morals, things like this?
Sheikh, actually, in the last 20 years, things changed. Yes, when you are asking a question, you have something in your mind, and that's what you are highlighting, that people might not have a clear understanding of Islam. So anything on the name of Islam is sold to them, and they do buy that. And yes, this is the case. Where precise clarity is not there, and many people have Islamic emotion, have Islamic feel, but lack of Islamic system and understanding is not there. But that is fastly changing, actually. And the previous concept that people had is because the mainstream Islamists do not represent Islamic system as a whole. They do believe in this gradualism. They do believe that some social changes are Islam. They have seen the era of General Ziaul Haq. In that era, in social system, Islamic field was dominated, and people believe this is a good system of Islam. There are discussion about removing interest, which is very obviously haram, but other things are not clear, especially in foreign policy. I have not seen even the most prominent Islamic parties that stand for the election, they ever say the terminology kafir harbi failan, kafir harbi hukman, muahid, mustamin. They have never used these words. These are the words that come into the vocabulary of people of Pakistan. In the last 10-15 years, they are gradually taking place in the people's minds in the last 10 to 15 years, and still most of the people are not aware of these basic terminology that exist in the Islamic foreign policy. They have Islamic emotion, so we should support Muslim. That's fine. That is why Imran Khan was able to sell, quotes unquote, Islamic touch. Even this terminology become very famous. This terminology become very famous in Pakistan, where Imran Khan supporter was asking him in his ear, why don't you use Islamic touch? Say Islamic something with Islamic touch, which means just say something which is apparently, and he immediately say, I am the guardian of the sacrilege of the, I am the Prophet honor, and I am guardian of this, and they are crushing me. Why? Because I am the protector of the honor of the Prophet. Immediately after he say something with Islamic touch, he said this. So yes, there is a Islamic touch, there is lack of clarity, but the ulama that has been supporting, say, Islamic democracy, which is not actually Islamic, they know it, inside their mind, they idealize Taliban system, the Pakistani ulama, where there is one Amir al-Mu'mineen who is all in all, who command respect, everyone has given bay'ah, and they have to obey. Inside their mind, back of the mind, they support this, but they actually think Pakistani people are not like Afghan. They are not that Islamic. So we will go through a gradual path. So let's now first bring some Islamic law, fight in the court, some protests, so that we bring some, and they believe they are on the back foot. The liberal and secular onslaught is there, which is actually wrong. Actually, the secular and liberal on the back foot. But they misunderstand. They are still in the thinking which they got in 1857, where Muslims were crushed when they resisted the English, and 600,000 Muslims were hanged and killed. And from that day, they decided that we are unable to fight these secular and these English and these occupier. So therefore, we should just establish madrasas and learn Islamic ulum, and we should not confront with the regime in a powerful manner, in a final fight. We should not go into these, we should just raise our voice continuously, but we should never be against them totally, because then they will even destroy our madrasas. They have not got out of this thinking till this day. They fear for the loss of madrasa, and there is some now for some ulama there is commercial interest as well in this issue, but generally the thinking prevail. You should not go against them. So they believe the secular liberals are too dominant. The whole bureaucracy, the military top brass, the judiciary, they're all seculars. So even if some the illiterate people are with us, but the intelligentsia is not with us. So therefore, we should not call for the original Afghanistan style Islam, and we should be talking about some Islamic thought which are acceptable to these urban masses, and they are willing to accept. For example, they are not willing to accept imposed burqa. They are not willing to accept big beard. They are not willing to accept raising their shalwar. So they are not willing, and we cannot force them. Otherwise, our regime will fail. That's why we should not talk about that sort of thought. In fact, they sometimes condemn Taliban. They say, okay, yes, they are a bit harsh on some on people. We are not talking about that Islam. This is what our ulama actually say here. So that is why the in Pakistan, because of these people, a clear understanding did not develop, and even a partial and superficial type of Islam is considered some sort of Islamic system. So, but during the war on terror, the ulama are undermined because they did not took the stand that they should took on this issue. There are other Islamic democratic parties. They are not even winning one seat this time. They did not win one single seat in the National Assembly this time. So they are no more the radicals which they think they are the radicals. They are taking over the mainstream. The TV channels are now supporting others because the existing ulamas are not watched by anyone, and they are commercial channels. So they are calling those people who have now some worth. Universities are calling to these radicals now because the youth want to listen to them. There are a variety of such scholar, and not everything what they say might I agree with, but overall the more radical, the more clear, the more those people who clearly understand liberalism and capitalism and the democratic order, and they're exposing that order. There is clear anti-feminist movements standing on Islamic movements that are against them, and though there are those who are now the podcast like your podcast. There are other podcasts. They are so clearly elaborating the foreign policy now, which has never been the discussion on any TV channel. People of Pakistan never understood these, but now I was just watching one program which is very mainstream in Pakistan, a podcast, and he was exactly explaining how Iranian attacks were planned, how the American cooperated, what the Egyptians are doing, what Jordanian are doing, what Saudi is supporting the Israelis. Such clear discussion were never exist in Pakistan. And this shows that the broader people who are watching to these podcasts are getting very clear understanding now, and that is trickling down, and it is affecting the masses. And that show the resurrection is there. Actually, there is no stopping now. Once the people are got the idea, it cannot be stopped. It will now move on and on and on. So the clarity is reaching to the climax, which is required for a potent change, for a sustainable change. That is, the Ummah is reaching there, and this clarity is very dangerous. The American and the British understand this. Our regimes, they just think it is actually political opponent. They see it in this way. They don't understand this challenge actually. But the Europeans, they exactly understand this ideological challenge, and they see that's why their think tanks report, their articles are clearly saying that they're talking about khilafah, they're talking about change, they're talking about the problem to the regime. But the current elite that exists in the Muslim countries, they just see it as okay, a threat to my rule, actually a political rule. So they see it as a political opposition. That's why they try to crush them. But they don't see the ideological uprising that is spreading in the universities and the youth and the masses. They don't understand this, and alhamdulillah they don't understand this. And inshallah they will be, ये लोग पकड़े जाएंगे गर्दन से, इंशाल्लाह पकड़े जाएंगे.
Inshallah, bismillah ta'ala. Sheikh, last question, final. You are, you're teaching, you're a professor, you have, you don't, let's say, how when you were speaking, What is the understanding of the ulama when they're seeing somebody like you speaking with the clarity of Islam, with such clarity on ideas and ideological understanding of the deen, and are they surprised that there are that this a movement is being able to produce people like you? And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, is what happens, Sheikh, when they see somebody like you who may be just a product of university?
Yeah, exactly. There is an insight fair, and that exists since 1857. I will link it to the past because there is a fear that if something does not come from ulama, it might be wrong. Actually, they might be very attractive in
There's a
certain
fear, you say, huh?
ideas, but they believe that they do not have a clear understanding of what is Maturidi and what is Ashari and what is this, and they might be leading you to corrupt Akida actually. And there are actually people who talk very attractively on certain ideas and they become famous, and then they distract people towards wrong Akida and wrong ideas. For example, in Pakistani channel, the Ghamidis would be there and he's talking about against the atheism. But then he deny jihad, he will deny parda, he will deny khilafah, he will deny everything, but he will be very logical, very convincing on some ideas, and it attract educated people. He's very rationalist style ideas he present. So therefore, that's why ulama generally have an inside fear of such people, because they fear that yes, he's very clear, he know English, he can convince people toward Islam and some Islamic ideas, fine, but he might not have correct akida, he might give wrong fiqhi opinion, and he might mislead people from in their view, the correct path, and this is more dangerous. So there is a genuine fear, and this is understandable actually. But in recent years, especially in the last 20 years, many ulama are also unhappy from their leadership. There has been calls that we are over cautious. These people follow our akida, our methods, our thing, but they have political agenda and political ideas they present more clearly. So we should not disconnect with them. Although this is just a recent understanding, there are now some ulamas who have created platform and they're inviting us. I have been personally to these madrasa, and they have asked me several times for presenting economic system of Islam, because actually the ulama are facing a challenge, intellectual challenge about feminism, about liberalism, and the people are asking questions like that, and they don't have clarity on that. So they are now preparing themselves for such questions so that they remain relevant. So they have, so for example, there is one scholar whose name is Mufti Adnan Kakakhel, very learned scholar and very noble and nice person. He has created Al Burhan, and now every year more than 10,000 professionals, university graduate, doctors and engineers do 1 year course with him.
Oh, wow.
And he teach to only university students and university professors and the university chartered accountants, engineers, doctors and lawyers, and he gave them Sirah, Quran and the Islamic Usul al-Fiqh, etc. He gave them 1 year course so that he take them on board and he give them answers about this Islamic in the recent intellectual challenges. So there are people who are raising the voice. Recently there was another mufti who hold a big conference in Islamabad, asking different Khilafah party who were not originally from the madrasa enterprise, and he invited all and did a conference on Khilafah, and bridging the gaps. And many, because they actually, the first alim is always rare, the second then follow suit, then there are 4, then there are 16, and then it multiply. So alhamdulillah, that change is also coming there. Yes, still the old school of thought is there, and they have a little they're still cautious not to accept these people and never present them as Islamic, don't give them any Islamic credential from their side approving them. But there are changes coming in because of the situation that the Muslims currently feel they are currently in. So that is why change is there, alhamdulillah. They are accepting now.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sheikh, we have to end it here, and I promise you it has to continue, because I actually want to discuss economics with you of Pakistan and the rest of the Muslim world in general, I think we have to dedicate one podcast to economics, inshallah, bi'iznillahi ta'ala. So with that, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair for your time. Wallahi, I apologize because, Salah time is started almost 20 minutes ago. So we will go back to Salah, inshallah. But Jazakallah khair for your time. And
Barakallah.
and for the clarity, Sheikh, you've spoken very clearly regarding at least what's happening without fear, I would say, because a lot of people, I don't think, will speak the way you're speaking with such clarity and what needs to happen. May Allah protect you and protect your family and the brothers who are working with you, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for time. And for the rest of you,
Jazakallah khair for the opportunity. Allow me to say the last one liner, and that is through your forum, which is seen among the people in the Chicago and America and the rest of the European world, the English speaking audience. I want to ask them, and I want to demand from them through your forum that, look, you have a big role to play. It's not you are sitting there, you are in comfort. Yes, you are in pain, but you are living a comfortable life. You don't face the challenges that the people within the Muslim world face. They don't face. They know in the Muslim world there are clear lines and they can't go beyond that lines. But you have comparatively much more liberty with them. Sitting in Canada, sitting in US, sitting in UK, you can easily contact all the army officers, all the elite of the Muslim world. They are connected with you. Since you are in a better situation, you have supported your families there, and because of your support, they have become the elite and intelligentsia of the Muslim world. So you have a big role to play. You have to force them. You have to convince them to ask the army to move, to mobilize. And if they want, and they say how, just tell them there are movements, there are serious people, and if you push the army officer, they can contact the serious people. You need to create the pressure. Look, the women can do this, the men can do this, the uncles can do this. It's your social pressure. Social pressure is so important. This can strengthen a person and this can weaken a person. If my family does not support me, I become very, very weak. Even the regimes cannot break me the way my family can break. And the regime cannot strengthen me the way my family can strengthen me. So you have a big role to play, pushing the army to move. It's time. The Ummah is yearning for the day when and I will say, let in your fight you destroy the minarets of the Masjid al-Aqsa, but remove the filth of these Yahud from this Masjid al-Aqsa. Let the minarets and the buildings collapse and fall, but you remove these Jews from this Masjid al-Aqsa.
Allahu Akbar. Walillah alhamd. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it, Shaykh. Inshallah, I think that will be heard. I am sure that will be heard. Bi'iznillahi ta'ala. And if we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to take that voice all across the areas that you just mentioned, inshallah, may Allah put barakah in that. And it will happen, Shaykh. It will happen. I think just from this conversation, just the motivation, just from hearing from you, that motivates us to do much more than what we are doing. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All right, for the rest of you brothers and sisters, you heard our brother Imran speaking the way he's speaking, talking about the situation on the ground in Pakistan. It's very important. He's given us an objective now, a clear objective, what needs to be done, what we can do sitting here in the West. Yes, in our comforts, what kind of role that we can play, a role that could actually even the Muslims in the Muslim lands cannot play, but we have that opportunity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us about that opportunity if we are not taking the kind of role or not playing the role that we can play. So it's time that we also take ourselves accountable before we are taken accountable on the Day of Judgment. Jazakallah khair for watching, and inshallah we'll see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لا لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر لا 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 لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر صبح بدا نور ظهر نجم وشمس وقمر ألقى على الدنيا الدرر. هذا عمر، هذا عمر، كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر كي تستفيد من العبر. هذا عمر، هذا عمر. لا، لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح. نحن أهل الكفاح، نحن فينا عمر. لا، لا، لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح.